guys, I'm Diego.
I'm JT.
I'm Carlos, and we got producer Sean Ev on the levels over there. So this is another episode of Bowl of Men, your favorite anime weekly podcast. I've decided that's our new name.
Yeah, I like that name. It's very fitting.
And, yeah, right. But on today's episode, we were all talking, and we're kind of spitballing and just discussing anime as we usually do. And we've decided that we're going to be talking about gateway anime or intro anime. We were just kind of like talking like what our first animes were, like what was the one that got me into anime, Diego, JT, Ev, what got them into anime. I think Ev's like a special case just because we kind of forced him into it.
Pretty much. It always sound like, yeah, you should watch this. This is like the best anime we've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like
honestly, it kind of felt like gunpoint.
Yeah, yeah, I'm pretty sure it has like over 100 recommendations that we've given him.
Yeah, all the boys are watching anime.
Yeah.
Why aren't you watching anime?
Yeah.
Peer pressure.
Yeah.
Peer pressured into him. Yeah, as opposed to us where we just kind of like naturally like found our own way into anime.
Mm-hmm.
But for those of you who maybe stumbled upon the podcast and you don't know what anime is, or you want to recommend your friends some, or
Maybe you just want to take a trip down memory lane.
yeah, there you go. That's probably more for our audience, honestly.
You never know, man.
But yeah, you never know. But yeah, so we're gonna be going over like gateway / intro anime. These are some that either got us into anime or we've just kind of like talked about their quality as an intro anime, like easily digestible. It's got a little bit of everything in it, or something along those like that criteria.
It's not too overwhelming or anything.
Exactly, yeah. It's
Pretty
not like
easily digestible.
an insane plot that's just like you got to keep up with. And
Yeah.
it's just do research outside of the anime
Ooh.
or something like that.
That's Akira.
But
We're all
yeah,
over
that was a wild ride. But yeah, I mean, so what do y'all want to discuss first?
Like we were all kids first. We were all kids.
Right.
We would all watch cartoons, right? So like, we would all once like stay up at night, watch like Cartoon Network, and like Toonami would come on.
Oh yes.
And that'd be like Dragon Ball,
Late
Naruto,
night.
Bleach, whatever.
All the classic anime.
And we're like,
Yeah.
man, these look like fancy cartoons, and like
Fancy.
like blood. What's all
Cartoons
this,
plus.
So obviously, there's those type of animes that we didn't know back then were animes,
Well, not to us.
Not to us.
Yeah,
you know?
anime before we
'Cause
knew
we were
anime.
we were just kids, so we didn't know. So obviously, we could have just like stayed up and watched that, and that could have been gateway anime, to whenever like we could have gotten older and you're like, oh, I was watching anime as a kid. And obviously there were cartoons, that were similar to anime, like Code Lyoko.
Oh, we'll get into those later. Don't worry.
Avatar.
Different episode.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I'm not gonna get into it right now, but I'm just saying like, like they're not classified as anime, but like recently Avatar went on to Netflix, and I'm starting to rewatch it, and I just forgot how great that anime is. But yeah, like
it's a cartoon, my man. It's not an anime.
I know, but I'm just saying I've seen that cartoon like 5 times, and like how great
Oh no,
that cartoon is.
It's spectacular.
And I'd say like it helped me so much just get into watching anime.
Get in the genre.
Yeah.
Well, going off on a side tangent, I was doing a little bit of research on Avatar, and just like the writers who created it, they were heavily inspired by anime. So whenever they were setting out to
Understandable.
create Avatar: The Last Airbender, they wanted to do it with a more anime vibe to it, which is why it has such like a unique, even though it's a cartoon, it has such a unique like story-driven plot.
Yeah, now that I think about it, I think maybe the next episode we should talk about like on the same like extension of this like gateway anime, like cartoons that weren't anime but were at the same time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Kind of
Heavily
like
inspired.
Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
either heavily inspired or like or it was anime and we thought they were just cartoons,
Mhm.
or cartoons that can pass as anime. I think we might need to do an episode covering that, just because I think that is a big big chunk of like the whole gateway anime. Like it's kind
Definitely.
of like
Part of like maybe everybody's childhood.
yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
yeah. I think definitely we'll have to do an episode on that. Maybe like I think the next one. I think we should do that on
Yeah.
our next episode for
Alright.
sure. But
What do
Yeah.
you think, audience?
yeah. What do you, let us know. Twitter at bowlofmen. Give us a shout out.
Also, our email address,
Uh,
bowlofmen@gmail.com.
yeah, there you go.
Shameless plug.
Yeah.
Hey man, it's not
Yeah.
shameless if it works.
Yeah, right. Currently looking at my 0 inbox email and Twitter.
Well, anyways, going back to kind of like the Toonami topic. I think one of the more popular shows that were on Toonami, correct me if I'm wrong, was Soul Eater.
Soul Eater, really?
Like I said, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't remember ever seeing Soul Eater on there, but I wouldn't be
Wow.
surprised if it
Bold
was.
Bold claim.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like, it'd probably help if I don't know, because every time I watched like Toonami, it was just like in passing, and I'd always see like Cowboy Bebop. That was like the one that I
Cowboy
The
Bebop
one-
was like
and
late.
Bleach.
The
night.
ones I would always see was Inuyasha,
Mhm.
Naruto, what's the other one? Dragon Ball, and what's the other one? Bleach. Those are the
Yeah,
main
yeah.
4 that I would always see.
So I think that's really funny because they're at from what I remember, they're at completely different showtimes. Naruto and Bleach were at like the
beginning.
forefront, and then
Yeah.
like Inuyasha was at like 3 in the morning.
Yeah, I remember like I would stay up till 3 just to catch Inuyasha with my sister.
Yeah. Those dope childhood memories.
Mhm.
But I mean, I guess on the topic, yeah, we can talk about Soul Eater. I feel like for me, that was really early on in like my watch. I'd say it was probably like the first 10 that I had seen,
Mm.
like still kind of getting into it. Yeah, I think it's as far as easily digestible goes, I think it's like further down the line, like like there's other anime on this list that are like easier, I would say, to consume, like plot wise.
Oh
But
yeah.
this is a good like on the track of like, okay, like you know what anime is, you've seen a little bit of it. It's
Mhm.
like, all right, now it's like the next day we're taking the training wheels off, sort of.
So like less of a gateway and more of like
Mhm.
the next step after.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because like the thing about Soul Eater, it's kind of like what Ev tells me whenever he watches anime is like he wants to know like the origin, like the whole story behind, and like how the world got to be at that point, you know. So like Soul Eater doesn't really like do that very well. It's just kind of like there's weapons and then there's weapon meisters, and that's basically it. Like the world of Soul Eater, this is how it is. And you know they do what they do great is like building the characters. You know, the first 3 episodes is like they do like they introduce the all the characters very well, and I do appreciate that. But yeah, down the line it gets kind of confusing, and they overwhelm you with like the story, and I don't think that's kind of great for a beginner. I'd say like yeah, maybe your second or third anime. But yeah, I certainly do agree that there are other animes that just like can baby you in there.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. No, so I think it deserves a spot early on just because it like opens you up
Mm-hmm.
to the concepts that they try to that anime will like present you with, you know. So
Like it pushes you on.
it's-
yeah,
early on.
it pushes you to like because like you said, it's like it. I think most of us have that like 3 anime criteria, like or 3 episode criteria, where it's just
Yeah.
like you'll judge an anime off those first 3 episodes, and this one's what 50 something episodes.
51 or 52. I think.
52?
51.
51?
51 episodes.
Okay.
Such a unique.
It's a binger.
Yeah, such a unique
Cool,
number.
yeah.
Yeah.
So-
What I love about this anime and why I would recommend it to a beginner is it has so many genres or so many things in there, like ninjas, like guns,
Yeah.
zombies. So it's like just by watching this anime you can find out what you like. It even has like a hint of romance in there, so it's like, oh, I like this about this anime, so like after I'm done watching this, I'm gonna find some more of this, so it could just like lead you for what you want.
Yeah. No, it's and the fact that I don't know, I guess seeing like 50 plus episodes, 51 episodes can be a little daunting. Like you said, it's a binger.
Mm-hmm.
But like I said, it passes that like 3 episode criteria where it's like you judge it, and it's like it gives you these characters that you kind of you grow attached to, and you want because I think it starts off with them trying to pass their test. Like they need to
Yeah,
get the
they need to
100th
get
soul or something like that. The witch soul.
Yeah, 99 souls, Kishin souls, and then one witch soul.
Well, then witch soul. Yeah.
Yeah.
And and so it shows you like this, like what they're doing, and yeah, it kind of throws you in there, but you catch on quick.
Mhm.
And you're with these characters, and you're like, oh, I can tell it was probably like a grind to get those
All these
99
different
souls, and
yeah.
all this stuff. And then you starts introducing you to like all these characters who are trying to make that climb. They're like they want to get to that.
Yeah, so then it could turn into like a death weapon, the Deathmeister weapon or something.
Weaponmeister. Yeah, so you like catch on quick, and it's just like, oh, this is a world that I want. These are characters I'm invested in, and I want to know more about. And so while, at least for me, whenever I was watching it the first time around, I was like, man, 50 episodes, that's a lot. But that's a lot, and like I got excited. I was like, okay, I can be in this world for 51 episodes of, stuff. The ending was a little meh, but we won't get into that. It's
opinions.
yeah. I think it's perfect. It's like your first heartbreak, I would say.
Well, like,
like,
actually, whenever I first watched it, I'm like, oh, like, to be honest, as a beginner, I don't think you would much care about the ending, because like I didn't really, because I rewatched it and I'm like, oh, I'm kind of disappointed about the ending. But like the first time I watched it, I'm like, oh, that's a cool ending, because like I wasn't really big into anime at the time, so I was like, now I've seen so many multiple anime endings to where like now I know what a good ending is and what a bad ending is.
I think that's that's the stage I'm in right now.
Well,
Yeah.
I think like my opinion on that is I think regardless, like if you watch anime or not, you know a good story.
Yeah,
like,
you
so
know a good story.
in my opinion is like the ending in particular didn't give you like the gratificate, like that satisfying, like, oh yeah, like it's cool what happened, like don't get me wrong, but it wasn't satisfying, and
Like,
that's why I think like any
it could have gone with like an extra episode to like tell you like what happened afterwards. But yeah, like watching it like probably a third time, it could have gone, it could have been better.
Yeah,
I agree.
but I don't know, because that's what I'm saying. Like whenever I watched it, that's how I was left. Like I was like looking through forums, and I was like, is there more? Like is there a continuation? Like, cause this is like, and the grand majority of like what I saw was that people that were like in that same boat as I was, that were just like, yeah, the ending was kind of weak, like, and I don't know, but like I said, it's like, it is great, and like, that's what I was saying, is like it's a first heartbreak where it's like, not all anime will like have like that super grandiose ending that's just like, oh man, like super satisfying, like you left it and you're just like, awesome, like this one does leave you wanting more, does leave you like man, that was it, like what, like I went through all this. So I think that's kind of necessary, to kind of like ease you into like, yeah, anime will do that, like just like normal TV shows and books and stuff like that,
Yeah.
So it's definitely, I don't know, I liked it a lot. I think it should be up there on somebody's like first time watch list, like
At least one of the first ones.
yeah.
So like I haven't seen Soul Eater like at all.
Yeah, me neither.
It shut up. So that gets me to the point of where like I'm not a beginner anymore. Is it
Sounds like it to me.
Is it still worth the watch?
Oh yeah, I mean,
I feel like everybody should watch it, because it's like, it's one of those animes like, it's like, it's up there, it's like it has to be where everybody has to watch it just to like understand. Like,
see, you say that, but at the same time, I've kind of told you this before we were recording, maybe a couple of days ago, but I know very little about Soul Eater. I know some of the characters. The four most recognizable characters to me is Death the Kid, you got Soul, you got Maka, and then you got Black Star. Those are the only four characters I really have any kind of inkling of who they are.
Yep.
And I've always heard all this praise about Soul Eater, it's always been like, oh, it's an amazing anime. Oh, it's a really good one. So many people say so many good things about it. But at the point of where I'm in now, I have this mental image of Soul Eater, of it being like apparently this really great anime. But
I think it's just, for me, it's the art.
Yeah, I was about to say, I was like, it has a pretty unique art style.
I love the personality of each characters.
I think that one,
and how each character, like because like, so there's weapon meisters and then there's weapons, and how each like these characters just like bond with each other, and
Yeah.
how they're not very compatible, but in the end they are. You
Yeah,
know?
they're kind of like, because what the weapon meisters choose the weapons, or no, that's just
It's just like how their souls bond
Yeah,
with
yeah.
each other. You know?
And so it's really cool seeing like these very different characters that are like put together, and they're like, you know, essentially forced to work together. It's not like they like hate each other,
Yeah.
but it's just like they have like differences. Like Black Star, I can't remember. I think Maki,
No, you're thinking of
Subaki.
Subaki.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So Black Star is super like, oh yeah, look at me.
Egotistical.
Yeah, he's just
He's
like,
he
but
wants
then
he wants to like surpass God, and he thinks he's like number one.
yeah, but
Yeah.
he's not really. You know?
Yeah.
But she like kind of like, but she's like super powerful, right? As a weapon, like her
Yeah.
abilities and stuff like that
Mhm.
is really high up there. Like one might argue that she's like more powerful than he is, but
Mhm.
but she's like super like humble and just like really kind of quiet and stuff.
Like
but
she just supports him.
Yeah.
You know, like nobody else would support him. You know, but she's just like
Sounds
she's
like
always
she's a
there.
mom.
Basically, yeah,
she has a really strong like mother figure, but
like she knows like he's very egotistical, but like in the end, like she will always be there for him.
Mhm.
You know,
yeah. So
he's-
it's like it's kind of like character combos like that,
like
that are like
Maka and Soul. Like Maka's like a straight A student that will like never break the rules, and then Soul's like a rebel. Like that's like his personality, and in the end, they just like always work together and find a solution
Yeah.
for like the problem.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't know, I think like character building and like the relationship building like that, like really good. I would say probably one of the best in like most animes that I've seen.
Mhm.
Also the dub, I'm not a huge dub fan, but the dub for Soul Eater is like,
It's really good.
it's like 5-star S rank, like top tier. Like it's really good.
Mhm.
It's like thinking back to it, like I think Maka's my favorite like voice actress compared, or like with character like combo. Like the voice actress fits really well. Thinking about Soul, like his voice actor fits like that character really well. Black Star, like yeah, they're all like perfect matches, I would say, you know, and they it just sounds great. And then yeah, I mean going back to like the art style is like unique. It's good. I don't know. It's just all around like there's nothing that's bad about it for a veteran watcher. So I think that's kind of what also makes it really great
Mhm.
for a newbie, like someone who's just starting to
Because,
get
like,
into anime.
As like whenever you watch anime, you always try to find like what is like what is the meaning you're trying to find, like because you know like what are they called, like you know whenever they make anime they always try to put like a meaning behind, like you learn something, right? But whenever I first started, like I never tried to find like the meaning, but whenever I came back to Soul Eater, you know, you find like the meaning, and I'm like, oh well, there it is, you know. So you know, it's just like it's weird just coming back to it and you finally find it. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. And that's the thing. Like I finally came back to it like the third time, and you just see it. But that's the thing that's the thing that the differences between like finally like the first time watching anime
Going
and-
back again and
and then like after watching a couple of animes, you finally realize like, oh, every anime has like
their own little like
they're all like you like a thing you learn, you know.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, then going ahead and switching topics of animes real quick. Soul Eater, it sounds like a pretty decent anime even after all the years that it's been since it's been released. So sounds like a pretty good anime to start watching.
Yeah.
One that one that I'm bringing up now is one that's technically still going on. They just completed season 4. It is My Hero Academia. Season 1 specifically. I don't think we're gonna be talking about any like season 2s or anything else.
No, I mean,
Nah, because it's just like
Yeah.
recommendations. Like you
Yeah,
would
okay.
recommend to somebody the first season.
So My Hero Academia.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I think it is a wonderful anime. I think it does a lot of things right. There are some things that it does wrong, but I'll start with the right. So season 1 of My Hero Academia, in my opinion, honestly, thinking back on it, is probably the weakest of the seasons, just because it's a lot of necessary world building, and it's a lot of about the main character Midoriya trying to understand and learn what his quirk is, which is essentially just superpowers in this world. Quick plot of the anime is that one day people started being born with powers. Villains started to rise up, and because these villains with the superpowers rised up, heroes emerged to stop those villains, and it's created this whole unique system of heroes and villains being kind of like a necessary part of the world.
Yeah.
So society accepted them, and they started hero organizations and high schools and all that stuff. Enter our main character, Midoriya, Izuku Midoriya. He is known as quirkless. He is part of the 20% that do not have quirks in this series.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that I really like about it is that normally, like in a normal superhero movie, it's like the 0.001 percentile that like are superheroes or
Mhm.
whatever. You know, it's like the Tony Stark, the Captain America or whatever, the Batman. But in here, it's like almost everybody has some type of super ability,
Mm.
but it's just like you said, it's like that 20 percentile of like people that don't have powers. So I think that's a really cool like spin on like the universe where it's just like, yeah, everyone's got a power. Like
You see, and you say that, but even to that point, like not even everybody who has powers, not all of them work in unique ways like some other people do. Like Midoriya's mom, her quirk is being able to levitate small items to her,
yeah.
and that's it. There's
Yeah.
no like, there's really nothing she can do in a hero standpoint to that.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that just kind of like
Further to the point of like, there's different
yeah,
levels.
yeah. But yeah, it's like it's cool. Like you get this guy who's like quirkless,
Mhm.
and in a world surrounded by people who have powers. And I guess normally in anime you have like there's the OP guy, like the main character, protag. He's got like plot armor. It's just or she's just like super powerful or anything, you know. But here it's like the opposite. It's like, yeah, no, they're bottom of the barrel. Like
You know,
they're
I was watching this, right? Like, I rewatched it. You know what it kind of reminded me of?
What's that?
This might sound like very, what's the word? I
Con-
can't remember the word.
Controversial?
Controversial. Controversial. Um, so it kind of reminded me of an isekai anime. Because think about it, like, so okay, imagine if like the whole world had like superpowers, right?
Okay.
okay.
And it's just Deku, quirkless.
Okay, so it's like a reverse isekai.
Yeah. So I'm
Okay.
like, I was watching Sam, and I'm like, just imagine this fucking anime was just an isekai.
That's
I don't
funny.
know.
Yeah, that's a funny way to think about it.
Yeah,
I feel like
I
I
was
have to
like-
rewatch it now with
Yeah.
that mentality.
Yeah.
But I mean, kind of getting off like,
Getting off topic, right?
So the main reason why like I think this works as a good like starter anime is it's like superheroes.
Yeah,
That's-
it's very heavily influenced by Western superheroes. And I
Yeah.
think that does a very good job in appealing not only to the Western, like, idealistic of a superhero and, like, how these people match with their abilities, but, like, even to a worldwide stance. Everybody loves a good superhero.
yeah.
Dude,
And
I,
so-
I rewatched this, right? And I was the first time I watched it was probably like whenever it came out,
Ugh.
2016.
Something like that.
2016.
Yeah,
And
2016.
I don't know, I was keeping up with it, and I don't know, I just all of a sudden just dropped it. But I rewatched it like probably 2 days ago, and I don't know, I wanted to start crying like the whole first season because I'm like, dude, it's really heavy, dude. The first season,
It's
Yeah.
so
so I want to rewatch like the whole series again.
See, it's so jarring to me just because basing it off of my memory, it's crazy to see where Midoriya is during season 1, especially if you've seen in the later seasons to see where he's at and how much his character changes
Yeah.
from season 1
Yeah.
to like season 4. It's crazy to me to think about cuz when season 1 starts, Midoriya is literally just like a crybaby. He cries at everything. He doesn't really understand how to control One for All, which is his quirk he gets passed down from All Might. He doesn't really know how to control it, so he's constantly like hurting himself with it, and it's just you can really tell how much of a noob he is
Yeah.
with not only his quirk but just with life in this situation.
And so like thinking about it, I feel like My Hero Academia is not, I don't want to call it like a veteran like anime watch,
Mhm.
but like you said, it's like I feel like on those things where it's like they've done some things that are right and some things that are wrong. I feel like the wrongs that they do aren't necessarily as heavy for like a veteran watcher because it's just like, okay, whatever, it's like it's anime, like it happens. But they stand out a little bit more for like a newbie watcher. So, and I mean like plot wise or character development wise, like they do a lot of good things. So the character development, it's amazing.
Hmm.
Yeah, you have to watch 4 seasons worth to. What's up?
So that's actually what I want to make an argument real quick. First of all, I would actually argue the opposite, where the shortcomings that My Hero has is probably isn't as apparent to a newcomer, but to a veteran, they stand out just as much. It's just whether you want to accept it for what it is, or if you're just going to scrutinize it, that really makes or breaks how you feel about this
I mean,
anime.
it was like probably the first anime you've seen, right?
Yeah, one of the first, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
what'd you think of it?
I mean, since I really didn't know what I was getting into, I kind of liked it.
Wow, how
I mean,
far did you go?
I watched the whole thing, the
You watched
first
the whole
season,
thing?
yeah.
First season.
Is that as far as you got first season?
I think I watched second season, but I dropped it because
Okay.
I was
See,
waiting or whatever.
Because it's a lame anime.
No, you can't say it. See, honestly, to me,
You're making
second-
enemies.
sitting through 13 episodes of season 1 is honestly really worth it considering what it builds up to in season 2. Season 2, I think, is one of the best, if not the best, seasons for My Hero.
Oh yeah,
Season 2 is just
yeah.
blows it
I
out
mean,
of the
like,
water.
that's what I was saying. Like on my point earlier, is that like the character development that they do is like phenomenal. I
Mm.
want to say probably even the best of most anime that I've seen,
Mm.
because it's like you get to like grow and adapt with this like character. You know, it's like you. I feel like people like an underdog story. You know,
Mhm.
they like seeing like that growth. They like seeing like like a loser become cool. Like
Yeah.
powerful and stuff. So
And so that's where I want to make my second argument to where My Hero has a couple of shortcomings. They have, you're right, they have wonderful character development. I think it does really well. The problem is that it focuses too much on Midoriya at the beginning. They introduce all of his classmates and they just give him like bare bones besides three, which is you have Midoriya obviously because he's the main character. You have Bakugo, which is like his quote unquote rival, and then you have Todoroki, who's having to deal with the problems of his character story that you learn more in season 2 about.
I think that's necessary though. I don't want to get into like the nitty gritty of My
Yeah, yeah.
Hero. But I feel like that's necessary because if you think about it, what is it? How many students is it? 12, 15,
I think
Something like that,
it's-
yeah.
I think it's 13
13?
or
Well, regardless,
forgot,
it's
yeah.
in the teens, right? If right off the bat, first imagine like newbie or veteran, not only are you given world building, but you're also given 13 characters off the bat that you need to keep up with. That's insane. I would stop watching it. I would never watch it. I would never recommend it. I'd
and-
never.
19
and at
characters.
the end, you're like they introduce you with, like the antagonist, like the main
Yeah.
antagonist.
So then now you have like the antagonist, and it's a group of antagonists.
Mhm.
It's like you got the main body and then like other, like henchmen
Henchmen, yeah.
almost.
Mm-hmm.
So now you have to keep up with them, and then in later seasons they introduce more classmates. So it's like that's already like it's too much. So I think it's necessary. And then later in the later seasons, it's still like those are like the big three.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's like those three. It's like you got Midoriya, Todoroki, and Bakugo. It's like they're like the main driving force. They're the most powerful in their class or whatever. I guess that's kind of spoilers. Oops. but no, I think it's necessary that like it only starts with those three. It's like because you get all the world building out of the way,
Mhm.
and you get the groundworks for these three characters,
Mm.
and then as you continue, they start trickling in more characters, and I think that's necessary. It's like you're taking small steps,
Mhm.
and I feel that's what helps it become so digestible. It's like you small pool of characters, and then on top of that, it's like superheroes. It's easy to understand like
Mm.
the climb to become powerful, than like all that. So
I guess that is fair. Honestly, I kind of want to I don't really want to go too much into it, but I feel like I got to talk about it just because of how hype it was. The last episode of season 1, there's a specific fight scene between All Might and one of the villain's characters. Do y'all remember it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, I think that was one of the coolest fight scenes in My Hero to date.
yeah, I hear that a lot.
It's so okay, and so this is where it kind of like leads into my whole dilemma of My Hero in a separate aspect, and I'll get that in a second. But it's honestly one of the best fight scenes because you see All Might, while he's not near perfect form, you can see him as to what he truly was
yeah.
back in the day when he was in his prime. And it's honestly just really outstanding because I think they did a really good job not only animating it but also showing it in a way that's not too distracting. Because
Yeah.
most like fight scenes, they're really hard to keep track of because there's everything going everywhere at the same time. But I think they did a really good job of keeping it kind of more straightforward and easily accessible to people who can't really keep track
Yeah.
of fast stuff
And
like that.
and that's one of the things I feel like makes it so great as like an intro anime is that like you get like aside from like this like deep meaningful like relationship and character building and all that, but you get like these awesome fight scenes and it's just like
I think that's what attracts people more too.
yeah, it's
So,
like it's like flashy and just like
Yeah.
ooh, muscles and,
Yeah.
Like that fight scene that you're talking about, like I don't know, it really stuck out to me because like after that fight scene, he said like an awesome line that stuck out to me that I even went back to listen to it again. It was like it's like yeah, back then that would have only taken me 5 punches, but now it took me 300 mighty blows or something like that.
Like All Might's just the badass. We
Yeah,
can
and
all
I'm
agree
like-
with that.
I'm like, dude, oh, that's so fucking badass.
yeah. But I mean, we can go on and on and on and on about
Honestly,
it, like My
yeah.
Hero. Like it is a really good watch. Highly recommended.
I do want to talk about one more downside before we jump over to the next anime, and that has to do with the fact that they give you all these really like cool characters like All Might and some of the other heroes like Kamui Wood and just like all these heroes that you know about that are in this world and they like lead and they're like the driving force of being of saviors of the world essentially. But the problem with it is I hear a lot of people complain about this too. They don't really give those characters much development or really much anything to work with. They're really just side characters. And I understand why that's a kind of like a dilemma because they put these characters in the world and they're like these heroes are supposed to be doing these great things, but you don't really get to see that.
I mean, like I can see where that's a downside, but
Mhm.
again, I feel like that's kind of like a good thing because it's like my Hero Academia, right? It's like the it's about the kids in school, right? So it's like I think they give you bare bones just enough. Like you
Mhm.
know how great All Might is. You know how great what's the number 2 hero?
Endeavor.
Endeavor. Right? Like you know about them, and it gives you little breadcrumbs here and there of them like doing great stuff in the world. But that doesn't matter. Like
Mhm.
you know just enough of like the legacy All Might's leaving behind and the weight that carries for Midoriya. And I
Mhm.
think that's all you need because imagine it's like if they tried to cram in all this extra about these guys, well then that's taking time away from the kids and like what their
And see, that's my
is.
exact argument to that exact situation where it's like, yeah, sure, I guess it could be considered wasted potential for these heroes that don't really get much time, but they're not the main focus of the
Yeah.
story. Like, even at the very beginning, in the intro, Midoriya is narrating saying how it's his story about he became the world's greatest hero.
Yeah. Oh man, I got chills thinking about that. He says that a few different times, and I think like in the
Yeah.
movie, he's like, "This is the story of how I became the,
The world's greatest
hero."
bro, I just got chills from
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Ooh.
But no, and I mean, but that goes back to it. Like, it's great for veterans
Mhm.
and for newbies because like you can pick at it from different
Oh,
angles.
obviously, yeah.
Like it is really good. So, but I guess with that we'll move on.
How about can I go on a side tangent?
What's up?
Before we continue, I'd want to know like what is the first like anime you guys have seen before anime was anime. No, not like.
So you're
like,
talking about
no,
what
no.
anime we
Yeah,
saw
yeah,
that
yeah.
really defined,
defined
anime.
anime, yeah.
Like not like any Naruto or Bleach or anything like that.
Yeah.
For me, my very first anime was probably Inuyasha.
Inuyasha.
Yeah, that was the first time I actually knew what anime was.
Mine was Samurai Jack. No,
That's
so Inuyasha, Ev?
Like the first defining one.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. I forgot what the first anime I actually watched. I think it was Cowboy Bebop.
Cowboy
Cowboy Bebop.
Bebop.
Like Diego kept pushing it on me.
Wow.
What? I know you've seen Black Lagoon. Where?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he loves that.
Wait,
one.
I love that.
dude.
Mm.
I love hearing him say that because like that one was like one of the first
Yeah.
early ones.
It's
that
funny
I've
every
seen.
time he mentions
Yeah.
Remy.
Yeah. Where does that fall on the list of like number wise? Do you remember? Like,
Number 15.
I'd say
Black
that like
Lagoon.
that's probably number 3 or
number 3.
4, maybe number 2. I don't know.
Yeah,
Alright,
it's
Carlos.
good.
Yeah.
What about
Have you seen all of it?
Yeah.
Roberta's Blood Trail as well.
Oh no.
No,
No,
Sorry, I
no,
will.
he says.
that throws like a last like a little twist on the end.
Mm.
It's just kind of like my heart.
Yeah.
But for me, so I was actually one of those guys that like in high school I didn't make fun of people, but I was just kind of like anime,
Yeah.
like gross. Ugh. But then I had a friend who was like, no man, give it a try, and he was watching Sword Art, at the time, and he's like, "Give it a try, man." And so I like he kind of like lent me one of his earbuds, and I'd put it in, and like it was like like a big action scene where they're like clearing a floor boss or something. I'd like look over, and I was just like, "Oh man, that's kind of cool." I was like seeing like the light trails, like kind of like really Tron-esque of like the swords and like Kirito just going to town, and I was like, "Yo, what is this?" And he's like, "It's called Sword Art Online. I'll throw you the link." And I'm like, "All right, thanks, man." And so I watched it from like start to finish in high school. The anime is actually one of the reasons why I almost like failed high school, is just because like I was in class, like instead of listening to like lectures and stuff like that, I was just watching anime. And yeah, so Sword Art was definitely the first one. Like I'd say it's like super anime. Like I mean, it's like one of the biggest mainstream
Do you
ones.
think
I would
that's
say.
how most people get into anime? Kind of like through other people saying, "Hey man, what are you watching?"
Yeah, I definitely
And
think
like
so.
they show them, and they're like,
See,
"Oh, this is pretty cool."
I say it's either that or it's most of the time I hear a lot of people who say they watch anime, they only really watch mainstream anime.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
like
I,
Dragon Ball, Naruto.
I wouldn't even say those anymore, just because those nowadays those are more considered like classics for when we were kids. Just because,
I mean, yeah, they've been around. Like,
just because they're still popular. Honestly, if you go to like most anime websites, Naruto Shippuden is still one of the most
Yeah, it's
watched
on the top.
animes out there.
Yeah.
But I feel like those, while they are still popular, they aren't mainstream anymore.
Hmm.
Mm.
Well, I don't know. I feel like that's arguable because,
it's
like, I mean, like you see, I don't know. Like the way I see it is like, how many like ReZero shirts do you see people walking around with in comparison to Dragon Ball and Naruto shirts? You know, it's like
Shirts?
that's how I see it. So my view for mainstream are my coworkers,
Mm-hmm.
right? I think about like,
Ooh.
what are they watching?
Mhm.
Because like I watch like everything. Like it comes on my list and it sounds interesting, I'm watching it. But these guys, like I ask them like, "Hey, you watch anime?" They're like, Dragon Ball." I'm like, "Okay, yeah, you know."
And see, to that argument, that's where I say that they aren't mainstream. They're popular, sure, but they're more part of our pastimes than they are. Like it's the whole scenario of like having a Friends T-shirt. You know, it's just like it's pop culture at this point. It's become so ingrained in our like childhoods and stuff that it's become our culture for it. Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, Bleach, they're all,
Right, but is that not the definition of mainstream?
yeah.
well, either way.
Well, guys, my first anime.
Yeah, Diego, tell us about your first anime.
Please.
The world wants to know.
Thanks, guys. My first anime was Death Note.
Oh,
Death Note.
Yeah, it's a weird one. But,
Nah, it's a beautiful
it's like a
one.
mind bender for your first one, also.
yeah.
Yeah, so that one definitely probably puts a weird perspective on anime as your first one, I
Mhm.
bet.
It was really badass. I'm not gonna lie.
I mean,
Like,
yeah, it's
I
badass.
remember in when I used to live
It
in
is.
California, my older sister lent me like a manga. And I was like, wow, this is cool. Like it's like a comic book, but like really thick.
I just imagine like young Diego reading it left to right.
Yeah, you did.
I
I
just
did.
like,
I'm not
this
even
makes
lying.
no sense.
I did.
Like,
No,
what's
no, no,
wrong with
like-
these
like,
pictures?
like I think I was grounded, right? So my mom was like, "Go read a book," and my sister like gave me this, and I was like, "I'm like, all right." I'm like, "Picture book, right?" And I was reading it. I'm like, "This doesn't make any sense," but I'm like, "It's pretty cool," because I think it was a book about like baseball, but it didn't look. It looked like an old school like manga, and I was just reading it, and I told my sister, "I'm like, wow, this is pretty cool," and she's like, "You read it wrong."
You know,
And I'm
I
like,
I
"Oh."
think that's really funny, just because if you open up any manga books, they even to this day at the very front or at the very back, I guess technically
It's
of
just
the
like-
book, they have a page telling you, "Hey,
Read
you're
this way.
stupid. You're reading this
Yeah, I've
wrong."
seen
that
before.
Yeah.
And so I think that's just really funny
So-
that
and then like I read it again, and I'm like, this
You
makes
see,
sense.
like, you see, it's like a scene where like the light's just shining out of the book, and he's like, "Oh!"
Yeah. And then we moved, and then I finally moved here to Texas, and I started picking up I picked up Death Note, and I fell in love with it, and I started reading all the manga, and I don't know, I was almost done with it, and I'm like I hate reading. So then I started watching the anime.
What am I doing
And I
reading?
realized they like
Ugh.
butchered they butchered
Words,
it, like
brain
all of
hurt.
it. Yeah. I realized they butchered it all. I don't know.
Opinions.
Ew. Gross.
I mean, I've never read the manga, so I wouldn't know. I've only watched it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna jump back to Carlos's first anime he's ever watched, because that's actually on our list. Sword Art
Ah,
Online.
Yes.
So I recently watched it. I watched it dubbed. It's the first time I ever watched it dubbed, and I have to say it's very interesting. Just because the first time I ever saw it was probably back when it was originally coming out, maybe a year. I remember watching it in middle school. That was almost a decade ago now.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're old.
Shut the
Yeah.
frick up.
Yeah. So Sword Art, it's really good.
Yeah.
All right, moving on.
I mean,
in other news-
I think we talk about Sword Art on
yeah,
here
I
so
feel
much.
we've talked about it like 2 other episodes
Just
back.
give it a quick rundown. Just
All
So-
right.
Okay,
So the
but, like,
rundown.
we gotta talk about Sword Art in a beginner's perspective.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
you're right. You're right.
So to me, I think
Why would you recommend
like
it to somebody?
if you watch anime, I made this like comparison, I guess, in a earlier episode where it's like if you watch anime, you probably play video games. In that, like you have that like pop culture, like you're involved in like quote unquote nerdy thing or geeky
Mhm.
things, right? And video games being one of them. Not always true. Like maybe you hate video games and you just watch anime. But for me, it was easy to get into. It was an interesting idea of like getting sucked into a video game. And
Yeah.
like I feel like that's very dream-esque where it's
Mm.
just like it's still like semi-grounded in reality, but it's fantasy. It's like virtual, you know. It's
See, I would even argue to the more point, it's even more grounded now than it was when it first came out, just because of how VR is just kind of like taking the stand.
Exactly. And so I think that's like it's awesome. You know, it's like it kind of it's like a little hint, a little twinkle of light of just like that could be possible.
Yeah, like it was like whenever I first watched it, I haven't rewatched the first season since I've seen it, but I remember just like it's pretty chilling. Like whenever he puts on the VR like thing,
Yeah.
it just lays down in bed and he's sent to like a fantasy world. And I'm like, I remember just watching that scene. I'm like, dude, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So, do we want to give like a quick
yeah, that's
synopsis
what I was about
of
to
it?
do. So it's essentially just like this video game / VR experience comes out,
Mm-hmm.
and
It's called Sword Art Online.
Sword Art Online, and it's a deep dive technology, and so world release happens. Everyone like puts on their like
Nerf
VR
gear.
helmet, and it like connects to like your cerebral cortex, and so you're like fully immersed.
Mm.
And everyone goes in, and it's like this MMORPG, super fantasy. Everyone's grinding monsters, yada yada yada. And then they're like, "All right, everybody, like gather around in the main central area plaza." And they're like, "Oh yeah, what's going on?" And then like this voice is like, "You're stuck in here. If
Yeah.
you die in the game, you die in real life." And everyone's like, "Huh?" And they're all
And
trying to
you
log
can't
out.
log out,
Yeah, and then
yeah.
they can't log out and stuff. So. And I think that like, the only way that they can get out is by defeating the final boss at the top of this like 100-level tower.
Yep.
Yeah.
And each level has like its own boss at that, and it gets progressively harder.
And each floor is unique in its own way.
Yeah. So and it's essentially like it's good, and like that's like it's really like it grabbed my attention. I was just like, this is awesome.
Like explaining it sounds really cheesy, but like watching it, it's pretty cool because like the way they introduce characters, they meet these characters, you know, like it's really cool. I don't know, but every time I try to explain it, I'm like, it sounds really cheesy in my head.
But I
So-
mean, I think that's what like makes it perfect. Is that like as
Yeah.
for a newbie like intro watcher, it's like you don't
Mhm.
care if it's cheesy. It's just
Yeah.
it's
So
cool.
I do want to put into the fact that season 1 is technically broken up into 2
Yeah,
different
yeah. So
parts.
that I was about to go into that where it's like most it's like a arc, the first arc,
Mm.
and then the second arc.
Mm-hmm.
It gets a little chopped, like dicey. Like if you're a veteran watcher, like you'll pick it apart instantaneously, and like if you're not there to have a good time, like you're not gonna have a good time. Like it's not gonna be good. Even now, like thinking back to it, I'm just like, ugh, I watched that.
So-
Yeah.
But
I want to give my opinion on it just because I know this will be fun to talk about. Sword Art Online, personal opinion, please don't roast me, is trash.
pitchforks
so-
and torches, everybody. At the
Um,
ready.
Basically, I've always made the statement, and I'll stay to that statement, even now after rewatching it after all these years. I think it's a good beginner anime.
Oh, yeah.
Part 1 is a good beginner
yeah,
anime.
okay. So do me a favor, real quick, and like refresh me.
Open the window and jump out.
Is the second arc where they go to that Alfheim?
Alfheim, yeah.
Alfheim?
Yeah, that was terrible.
24 episodes?
I think 25 episodes.
25? So
I
it's,
didn't like
it's
that
25,
one.
yeah.
It's like 12 and 13 or 13 and 12.
Basically, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So like for in my mind where I have like the arc, there's this weird part where like Kirito and Asuna like settle down and they like
Oh, yeah.
become husband and wife. Like it's
Yeah, I'll get into
yeah,
that.
it's weird. Like like there's parts where it's just like if you think about it, like it kind of makes sense in that there needs to be like these character and relationship building because it can't just be like tower, fight, monster, you know, like it can't because then it'd just be like old and dumb. So it's like there needs to be like weight behind like the characters themselves. You know, it's like it's
More
already
story and
yeah,
just
because
not a
there's
lot of-
already like that the impending doom of like if you die here, you die in the real world. It's like okay, well that's that's true. Like if you die at all, you're
that's already
dead.
settled.
Yeah, it's like okay, so it's like that being like end game factor makes no difference if it's in the real world or virtual world. So I don't think that that's a heavy enough toll.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So they have to like engage you or like get your attention some other way, and it's by building like all these
Yeah,
friendships
more
and stuff
conflict.
like that.
And so I do agree with with the mindset behind of how they do it. But quite personally, I don't think they executed it very
Yeah,
well.
it's like
Their pacing is really all
Yeah.
over the place for the
Yeah,
anime.
it's-
Like the first like few episodes, they basically just skip over 2 years of just
Yeah,
what
yeah.
stuff happens, and then the last few episodes, of part one, they like slow it down
yeah,
so much.
It's like
It goes from
gruesome.
like months by months to day by day, and then a couple episodes, it's just like hours.
Yeah, I remember there was a part in it again because it was my first anime. I think even regardless, I can go back to it now and I'd still be confused. But there was like a part where like Kirito doesn't do grouping, like he doesn't team up anymore because something happened.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a scene where somebody dies, and then like everybody's sad and depressed. Like I was lost. I was like, who died? Whose name? I don't remember names. Like who was that? Not Kirito. Okay, and
Why do I care?
yeah, and then so it was like the pacing was really weird, and then I think that was like right before like
They just basically halted the story.
yeah, and then it was just like it's like yo, what's happening? But then they kind of like recovered from it, and it's like all right, back to the tower, and I'm like yeah, fight scene,
Here we go.
yeah. So that's what I'm saying. It's like if you pay it like I know it's bad to say, but it's just like if you pay attention to the story, you're probably not gonna have a good time. It's an anime. The story is like a big part, but it's incredibly beautiful. Like it's well animated. It's like you can tell they put money into it. Even like
See, you say that, but like looking at the fight scenes and then comparing them to like the later seasons, they've really upped their game in the later seasons.
yeah, but
like,
I mean that's
like don't get me wrong.
be
When
expected.
I first watched Sword Art, I thought, wow, these fighting, just like they're fighting fluid motions and like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
animations for it, I thought it was clean. But
Yeah.
watching back on it now, I just kind of realized how dated it looks now
Yeah, well, I
compared
mean,
to
that's-
where they're at now, and that makes sense.
Yeah.
Obviously, they're gonna grow as they continue on this story. But it just really dumbfounded me just to see how much of a growth that they had from season 1 to season
it's like three. It's like season 3. Season 3, part 2.
God.
That's-
Season 3,
Yeah,
part
they-
1, part 2.
They have movies. I didn't even know they had movies.
I thought they
Yeah.
only had one movie.
Regardless,
Yeah.
just watch season
There's
1.
like a lot to it.
But no, and that's what I'm saying. It's like yeah, it's like as a veteran, you can pick it apart. Like it won't stand a chance.
No,
like it's
not at
not
all.
necessarily a good anime, but a good intro anime, good first time anime,
Mhm.
100%. And I'm not saying that because it was mine, but it's just like like looking back at it now, it's easy to understand how I got sucked into anime by watching that one
Mhm.
because it's just like he makes friends. He's in this virtual world. Video games. You like video games? You're right. I do like video games. Oh, look at this. He's going around grinding. Oh, I like grinding. You know, and it's just like all this like cool stuff. And then like, oh, look, and it's like so beautiful. Like, look at the lights, the fancy actions. You know, it's like, you know, and I think it's just that's what makes it like easy to consume. You know,
Yeah.
it's like you don't have this like crazy hard plot line to follow. Like it's just like
Gotta go to the
Yeah,
boss,
exactly.
beat it up.
And it's just that, and they kind of it
People
makes
die.
it a little like contrived with like other things that they throw into it, and it's just like, well, I could do without that, but then definitely like it pays off because later seasons, especially now like season 3, like part 2 Alicization that they're going into, it's like season 1 on steroids, like on every like the story's way better, the art and animations phenomenal, like, but regardless, yeah. So I think that's what puts it kind of high up on the list of it should be like a first time watch, definitely.
Completely agree.
Just
because
because it's gonna be hard to come back to.
Yeah,
as a veteran.
Yeah, watching
Yeah.
it, like, if you're ever, this one isn't really one to like rewatch just because of how once you get the experience under your belt, it really won't stand the test of time. but as a very first watch, or even just a first like couple of watches, I think it'll do a good enough job to kind of introduce you to the idea of what it could be and what the world of anime can bring you. Um, Kind of want to follow it right up with another kind of out there one. I guess not really out there. One Punch Man. One
Ooh.
Punch.
My ears.
That one's good.
That one.
I can do it louder.
Do
You
it.
Don't.
Please.
I don't want. I don't want to have more work editing.
Yeah, so I was actually I rewatched that one like last week, like a few days ago. It's I've seen it so many times. Talk about like easily digestible. Like
It really is.
It's so because it's like, and okay, so the thing about this one, it's a parody. It's a parody anime. Like it doesn't like people might not catch that, but it's like the creators poking fun at anime. Like
yeah.
so anime, you know, like the main character's got the plot armor, he's OP, you know, whatever.
OP kind of puts it lightly.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. It's like it's
He's
a parody.
overpowered.
Yeah. So One Punch Man, it's in the name. He defeats all his enemies with one punch.
Mhm.
You know, he's so powerful.
Way to go! You spoiled the anime.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah, right.
man,
Fuck,
wrap it
bro.
up, guys. Come on, it's time to go home.
Back
But
it up.
it's like so it's the same as like My Hero. It's in this universe where people have superpowers. There's a hero association. They have rankings like the weakest heroes to the most powerful heroes.
Mhm.
There's bad guys that show up that need to be defeated, like so on and so forth. It's kind of the same structure as like My Hero.
like very generic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And okay, see, like I want to go into it, but I feel like it kind of ruins some parts of it if I'd like.
Then we're not just gonna. So I think the real key thing about this anime is basically how little the main character Saitama is really kind of focused on in this anime.
Yeah.
Well, see, because like that's
the charm of
that's
it.
the part that I like wanted to go into is that like because it's a parody, you see Saitama, he's this bald headed guy.
Yeah.
He wears a yellow
Like
jumpsuit.
jumpsuit,
Yeah.
red gloves and shoes and a cape.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
like rain boots, like and super. You know, you look at like a hero. You know, Captain America, he's got like the flashy suit. You know, Black Panther, he's got like the light up purple. Like you know, like they're
Yeah.
cool heroes. You know, it's like but then you look at like One Punch Man, and he's just like.
Rags.
Yeah, so they have this like animation or art design where it's like he has this like super boring like expressionless
yeah.
face, except for when he fights, then he gets like super
Super
detailed. He has like the cut
serious.
jawline and just like, and I think that like goes into emphasizing that it's a parody. That they're just like even his backstory is like, oh, I did 100 sit-ups, 100 push-ups, and like that's how
Yeah.
I got this powerful. Because normal anime characters or protags, they have like the super intense like
They have super training arcs
yeah,
and
the
like
training
they
arc
have
where
these
it's just, like-
abilities that really like put him above the rest. But
Yeah.
this guy, he just did push-ups.
yeah,
and
he just
stuff.
did like
Yeah.
normal workouts and but he's surrounded by this like ensemble of like those amazingly flashy heroes that don't even stand a chance against him and they just like undercut him and they rank him super low and I don't know, so I think that's like really it's funny. It really is funny. And so the reason why I wanted to put this on the list is again because of my coworkers. I had like one guy and he's just like hates anime, like he would just like, you know, call us lame and stuff like that for watching anime. And I was like, dude, like you haven't even seen it, like
Yeah.
you got to give it a chance. And he's like, all right, what do you want me to watch? And I was like, One Punch Man. I was like, watch One Punch Man. I was like, I think it's like the mindless, just like
Just sit back,
action.
relax,
Yeah,
and
it's
just
like,
watch it.
it's just dumb, you know. It's mindless. It's the best way I can put it. And so, yeah, I send him. You know, we close the restaurant and we go home. And then like around like 2 a.m, he's like texting me. He's like, "Yo, bro, this man Saitama's strong." He's like, "We're taking dudes out in one punch," and I'm like, "Yeah, man, it's pretty dope." And then like the next day at work, he's just like talking to me about it. He like binged the entire thing in one night. And like because it's just it's like there's nothing to it. It's like you don't have to understand anything. It's like okay, he's strong. Like
Yeah, that's literally the
Yeah.
only thing you need to know is that he's just strong. He beats things in one
He's
punch.
like very carefree.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like
and there's like a minor like I don't want to call it an attempt at plot, but it's just he's looking for like a good fight, someone that he can't destroy in one punch. But in that like the other surrounding characters, he has like his
sidekick almost,
sidekick,
Genos.
Genos.
yeah.
And they give him more backstory and more like character development than Saitama.
He's all
which
like,
is
I wanna
really
get as
funny.
strong as you. Yeah.
Yeah. And but no, it's all around good. Like it's
Would
just
you say it's like one of the or the best intro anime.
I think so, honestly.
Like for that reason, also you have that story like you told your coworker.
Yeah,
I want to be more specific and say it's season 1 is like one of the best.
Yeah.
What I want to get into like a part, but not. I think that'd be spoilerish.
Yeah, season 2 definitely like drops the ball, but
Yeah,
that's,
I didn't much. I didn't really like season 2.
I don't
I
think
like-
anybody did. It was just
It's a very
but
lukewarm.
I
I
ended up-
think it was like more filler than
yeah.
anything.
And so afterwards, I read the manga, and they didn't have much after that.
really.
Yeah, so
like,
I
it was
don't.
supposed
I don't.
to end or
Well, it's still like they're still being made.
oh yeah.
Like it was definitely like it was a necessity. It's like filler that needs to get out of the way. They're building like one of the coolest like villains I've ever seen. Like they give him a lot.
He's such a cool villain.
Yeah, like his backstory and everything is like it's super cool. He's a really cool villain.
And it's kind of upsetting to see how they have a villain with such great potential. Like, oh my goodness. And he just kind of gets shafted in season 2.
Yeah,
It's kind of
but-
a shame to see how his wasted potential.
but again, like in the manga, like there's build up. There's maybe only like 5 or 6 episodes worth of material
Mm-hmm.
in it, and that'd be stretching like a lot of like useless stuff.
Mm.
So I think it's gonna be a hot while before another season comes out. But yeah, it's like for that, it's like I don't know, man. You could have just waited. Like,
Yeah.
But I mean, regardless, yeah, I think it is like probably the best like intro anime because it's just like again, it's like superpowers, like you said, like that Western style. Like it's
Yeah.
people understand it. Like it's like okay, it's a powerful guy. He's got superpowers, cool. And then the fact that he's like OP, like you don't have to worry about anything. You don't have to like the plot doesn't matter almost. you know?
Also the satirical aspect of it.
Yeah.
He just doesn't care.
And that's what I'm saying too. So now I think that's what makes it great for like a veteran watcher is
Mhm.
like you can go into it and then like start to pick it apart. It wasn't until like my 3rd or 4th watch through where I like started like actually watching it with it being a parody in mind, and I was like, oh okay, I see what they're doing here. Like
Mhm.
that's actually incredibly funny.
Yeah.
Like
It's
super.
kind of like a sort of like a lot of veteran animes going like watching all these like cool badass animes. Like
Yeah.
they have like a certain plot. Like this means a whole lot, but with this one, so like it doesn't really
yeah, it's
mean
just
much.
out
But
the window.
it's just
like-
comedy,
yeah,
like a refresher.
yeah. It's definitely a good little like in your downtime. Like
Yeah, pretty
definitely
much.
pick it
Yeah.
up.
Definitely.
But no, so actually one that I'm curious about cuz I don't know much about it and I didn't think of it as an intro or gateway anime, but Assassination Classroom.
Mm.
So I unfortunately didn't have the chance to watch that one, but I am very curious about it. I have
Well-
y'all's thoughts on it.
Ev, wasn't that the first anime you ever seen? Assassination Classroom.
It was
Or
one of the first.
it was one of the first,
One
my
of the
bad, yeah.
first.
One of the first. What'd you think of it?
I mean, I liked it because it was kind of different than what I was watching. Because my first animes were like Cowboy Bebop,
Yeah.
Black Lagoon, sort of like badassy animes, and this one's more like a
Almost slice of
comedy-ish
life.
in
Like,
a way,
Yeah.
but like more school based, with
Yeah.
like this weird twist for a teacher, which kind of like really threw me off in the beginning. I'm like, oh, what is this? who is this
gelatinous
thing?
form
Yeah.
of tentacles.
Yeah, but then
So-
like when I kept watching
tentacles.
it was wait, what? What'd you say?
Nothing.
Okay.
So like
Continue.
the charm about this anime is that like there's like, you know, different like I guess there's like A class, B class, C class, you know, your stereotypical stuff, and then there's E class, which is like the worst of the worst.
The lowest of the low.
Yeah. So then like, you know, it's about E class, you know, these
These
what are
basically rejects in the
misfits, yeah,
school.
the misfits of the school. And then they introduce like the octopus guy, Coral Sensei,
Mhm.
and he like blew up like 75% of the moon. So it's like that's just like a threat, you know, showing that like, hey, you know, I'm a destructive monster or whatever.
And his whole goal is that he's going to destroy the Earth by graduation. For the
by March. Yeah.
in March
Yeah.
of the show, and unless the students from Class E can kill him,
Yeah.
and that's essentially the whole plot of the show. But I think it does a really good job because the character development in it is
So the thing about it, it's like it makes it seem that like this octopus, Koro Sensei, it makes it sound like he's an antagonist, right? But all he wants to do is just like teach class E, right? So it's like the students have to become assassins and kill Koro Sensei, right? While having to pass like their grades, right? For like advance to like get
The
out of
next
class
year,
E.
yeah.
Yeah. So it's like in reality, like Koro Sensei isn't the antagonist. If anything, he's teaching them
See, I would even argue that fact because while he's not just the forefront of an antagonist, he is technically
He's the
the
main-
overall
yeah.
antagonist. Because while yes, his main goal is to help the students and get them and to help them learn and become better students, he still plans on blowing up the earth. But he's very encouraging with his
Yeah,
students,
that really
even in the aspect of like them trying to kill him. He still encourages them in their antics and even helps them plan better.
Yeah, that's actually really cool.
Yeah, that plays
Yeah.
with my emotions a lot. 'cause,
Yeah,
like,
because you're like
Yeah.
you want to hate him because he's the bad guy.
yeah, but like
yeah.
he helps these students, but
And-
like in the back of your head, he's all like, but he wants to destroy the
Yeah.
world.
Mhm.
yeah, and like the students are like, it's like, oh, now's my opportunity to kill him, but like, it's like, but I can't kill him. He's like, he's done so much good
Well,
things for
So
like,
okay, no, that's not even the main thing though.
No,
like,
like,
the
it's
main
like, yeah.
gimmick to him is that he can move at Mach 20 speed. Like, dude's like super fast for no reason.
yeah,
And it's kind of crazy because in the show, a lot of the time they'll talk about, not very nonchalantly, I might add, how he travels to like New York, Hawaii,
Hawaii,
China,
yeah.
all these different places in
Just,
the
like, for
world.
lunch
just
or
for like
for
a
whatever.
lunch.
snack. They went to Italy for gelato.
Yeah, like he went to Italy for gelato, flew in in the highest atmosphere he could to keep it cold, just so he can eat it the next day. Like it's so out there and over the top. It's
Yeah, yeah.
honestly really funny.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of fun.
It's like a fun anime. That's
Mm.
what it is. It's like a playful, fun anime.
Yeah,
And see, I would even argue, or not even argue, I would go further to that point of where, like, even as later in season one, it gets starting getting more. I wouldn't even say more serious because it has that whole like comedy vibe to it the entire time.
Mhm.
But they'll have very serious moments in it, and that's where like a couple of my personal favorite characters in the anime really shine, just because it goes to show just uh, how much like latent abilities that they have with assassinating.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna name names just because it kind of spoils the whole fun of it. But while you're watching it, you'll see which character I'm talking about. Just see like their potential to become an assassin and just how skilled they are, even though they're just middle schoolers.
Yeah.
Like it's honestly really cool to see their abilities grow. I'm always fond of.
Is
good
there a
training.
second season? Is there?
There
Yeah,
is
second
3
season, yeah.
seasons actually.
There's 3 seasons. I
3
forgot.
seasons.
I've seen them all, but I just
Mm.
forgot. I thought there were just 2 seasons.
So I
See-
take it they don't kill. What's his
Um,
face?
I
I
don't wanna
when
say.
it was like coming out in manga form before the anime even released, I was actually pretty close to up to date on it. It got so far to the fact that like I wanted to read the next episode so bad I would try to make sense of the story without it being translated.
Oh,
That's
nice.
how
You just
far
read
I
the
got
raw.
into it.
you just
Um,
wanted more.
I just wanted more because
Yeah.
I was just that in depth.
I really want. I don't know if there is, but I want there to be like a part, like a season or something, where it's like they go on to actually become assassins or something. Like that'd be really funny.
I
to
could
see.
I could see them doing that as like one of the final like episodes.
like a time skip or something where it's
Yeah.
just like Koro Sensei is making them become assassins, or like it turns out that he's a good guy and he's all like, now you go assassinate all
So,
the corrupt
that's actually
politicians,"
really the
or,
funny
like, something
thing.
Crazy.
That's really the funny thing because during the entirety of season 1, they'll try to like get Koro Sensei to talk about his past because he's a biogenetically engineered monster. He was originally human.
Yeah.
And
It's funny
so-
because he's like, oh, I'll tell you my secret. It's like I'm not actually an alien, and it's like, I was like, yeah, we all knew that. It's
Yeah,
like,
it's like he tries to make this big moment of like I'm actually used to be human, and
Yeah.
everybody in the room is like, yeah, we kind of guessed that.
Yeah.
But it's really cool because where I was at when I was reading the manga, like I said, the entirety of the season 1, they would ask him about his backstory and just like what kind of person he was, and he never talked about it. He would always like sidestep and go into something else and just like it completely ignore the question. He didn't
Mhm.
answer it. Where I was at in the manga, they had actually just started going into his backstory and like what his reasonings were and why he's doing what he's doing and why he's even at class 3E. It's really, and from what I can remember, because I remember very specific scenes, it's very interesting to see like his character and why he chose to do what he did and why he's doing it, and it's just really interesting to see. I'm not sure how far they get in the anime. I've only seen the first season, and I kind of want to keep watching it.
Hmm. I
But
see, I see.
it gets really interesting, especially if they keep going with how the manga went.
Yeah.
I also want to talk about how they develop the characters because they develop them like in sections. They kind of group them up in different, like sort of cliques.
Yeah, I forgot
So,
about
like they
that.
talk about them like every once in a while. Like this dude's over here doing his own thing. then like they move to this guy, but it all flows like very well.
Yeah, it's a very
Oh.
organically flowing
Yeah.
anime, even for something that's broken up into different parts, like you
Mhm.
said.
Like how many students are there? Like
Oh,
close to 20.
there's a good number of them. Yeah, you got.
Oh dang.
It's like a whole
Yeah.
class, and they all have to work together. You know, like in the beginning, they all try to like assassinate him like separately, but then they soon realize that like it's a they have
It's
to
a
like
group
work
effort.
together
Yeah.
to like assassinate him.
Yeah, and
'Cause
that's
it's like
whenever
it's like
all their like skills sort of show like
Mhm.
these people are good at this thing, so
Oh,
they'll help
okay.
in this section and other
Mm.
things like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, because like that alone attracts me to want to watch it because one of my big things when it comes to anime, it's like a little teensy weensy thing that like, but I'm always on the look for something where they can juggle like a large cast of characters. Like
Mm.
everyone gets enough screen time, everyone gets enough
Yeah.
like character development, backstory, like anything. Like it's just a little like the cherry on top.
I
Yeah.
also
Like
noticed
in
that
anime, so
that,
that's
like,
that kind of attracts me.
in most of the scenes, almost the whole class is there. That's like I've also
Yeah.
noticed
That's
that
great.
too.
I wonder if that
Yeah.
was like a
And
pain to
there's like
animate.
what I love about it is like there's sometimes like fourth wall breaks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're very far and few between, but I do say when they do it, it's pretty well
I think
done.
that's the
Mhm.
best though.
Mm-hmm.
It's because it catches you off guard.
Mm.
Or it's like Deadpool. If you ever watch Deadpool, it's like left
Oh,
and
yeah,
right, left and right, left
everywhere.
and right, and you just
Yeah.
kind of expect it. So when it happens, you're just like,
Well,
oh,
I mean,
okay,
that is technically his
right.
character.
That's his character. But that's what I'm saying. It's like that's just while it is his character, it's like semi overplayed. It's just whatever. But this is like if it's like once every like 8 episodes or
Yeah,
something like that,
that's-
it's
that's
just
Yeah,
like
how
it's
it
like
is.
basically what it
huh?
is, yeah.
Did they just do that? Am I imagining things?
Even
It's
the
like-
other characters, like whenever one character does like a fourth wall breaks, the other one's like, "What are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, what's going on
Yeah,
here? What are you
it's
talking
like,
Yeah,
about?"
that's awesome.
There's like this one student and like he never talks and he said like something outrageous like the first line of the episode or like of the show and that's what you say.
Yeah.
It makes no sense.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like just a silly fun anime.
Mm-hmm.
It
I think-
honestly is.
What's the one with the Monokuma? The bear?
That is
Danganronpa.
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 That's a completely different
yeah,
vibe
I
to
think
it.
I think I like mixed those up.
Hmm.
They
think.
have like the similar eye style kind of like
That's just going nitpicky and saying like their art style.
Yeah,
Honestly, the
kind
only
of.
thing that's really similar between them is that they're both in classrooms.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean that's enough for me. That's enough for me to mix them up.
Yeah.
I don't really like
Simple-minded.
school life, like slice of life, things like that.
Mm.
I don't play with those too much, but I don't. So I mean, like, what makes that a worthy like first time anime?
It's kind of the same vibe as like One Punch Man, where it's like you have Koro Sensei, who's really just an OP character. He's super quick, obviously. He's really smart, and like Ev said earlier, there's a moment where it's just like really contradictory of where you really want to hate this guy because yeah, he's the overall antagonist. But maybe you said that. Did I get you too confused?
No, I said it.
Yeah,
You
he
said it.
said
Okay, cool. Where like, yeah, he is the overall antagonist, but because he's helping the protagonist not only become better students but better assassins to kill him, it's really hard to hate him.
Yeah, you get mixed emotions.
Hmm.
It's also very goofy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very funny. It's very it's easily digestible because the story. It's not like all intricate and anything like that. It's just in your face. They're trying to kill his
kind of
teacher.
reminds me of
Hmm.
he kind of reminds me of like Death from Soul Eater. You know, like he's very
Oh.
serious. He can be very serious, but like
But he's just like goofy for the
Yeah.
most part.
because like you know he has like those bad intentions, but he has to like he's serious. So that's kind of reminds me of.
And then on kind of a side tangent, but I found it really interesting. There's a minor antagonist in one of the last few episodes for Assassination Classroom, and it's voiced by Christopher Sabat. And the reason why that's interesting is because Christopher Sabat is the English voice actor for All Might in My Hero.
Oh, nice.
So it
Does
was
he have the same? Fear not, citizen.
See, that was the most jarring thing about it because I almost missed it because while All Might, his voice fluctuates a lot. He goes, "Dear not," he fluctuates between deep and high pitched a lot of the time. Where in Assassination Classroom, his character stayed only low pitch all the time. So you had that bass to it, but none of the like heroic sounding
Are you
that
talking about
boom.
like the final
Yeah.
fight scene with like
No, not the final one. It was the
What
one.
season?
It's season 1.
Season
It's like
1.
near the end. His name was, I guess I'll just say it, the enemy's name was Grip. He was that guy.
Oh yeah.
from the
I
military?
remember.
No, not from the military. He was one of the assassins near the end. He was like the second assassin that they had to fight.
Oh, Grip.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I remember him. Was he
Yeah.
the guy with the gun?
No,
No.
it was the guy before him.
Oh, okay.
The assassin dude.
Yeah, can't forget your green onion chives and soy sauce, and then a gun.
Classic.
Anyways, that was just kind of like a side tangent I wanted to go
Oh,
on.
the guy who fights with his hands. Is
Yeah,
him?
that guy.
Yeah, the guy. Ah, okay.
Like
I didn't even. Why
See,
would they pick him?
I see.
Okay, it makes sense because I was watching it and I'm like, that guy's voice does not go with his body.
Okay, so
That's
that is
exactly what I was thinking.
that was one of my main problems with this anime is two characters in specifically. Grip was being one of them, and then the second one was being the what's his name? Not the president, the principal of the middle school.
Mm-hmm.
Neither of their voices matched their characters.
No, the principal. I
I-
think it does.
That's
no.
I think it
dubbed.
does.
That's dubbed. Y'all
It's
watch-
dubbed.
Yeah, we
It's
were
dubbed.
watching
Okay.
dubbed.
Dubbed.
I haven't watched it subs.
I think
so-
the dub does it really well. The dub.
like I
Good-
said,
good dub.
except for those two characters, I have to agree. I really don't think Grip or the principal matches their voices.
So don't
at
get me
all.
wrong. Like Grip only shows up like once or
Yeah.
twice.
He shows up in the episode he's introduced, and then the very last episode.
Have you guys seen the sub
The sub.
for the
No.
anime?
Mm,
So you don't know what Koro Sensei sounds like Japanese?
no.
Oh man. I was just asking because I wanted to compare because I've heard him speak like Japanese and English, and in my opinion, I like the English better. I don't know
Yeah.
if it's because it's easier to understand, but to me,
Yeah.
like the
It's a-
English one has more fluctuation in his
So,
voice. He's
That's
more
the thing
goofy.
about like watching sub and dub. It's like once you get used to one, it's like it's kind of hard to digest the other one.
Yeah, to like
Yeah.
switch it up.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm
Do that.
tainted. I don't
That's
know.
me when I was watching One Piece,
Mm-hmm.
and I like ran out of like dub to watch, and I was like, I want to keep watching, but I don't want to wait for the more
Keep the
dub to
dub.
come. So I switched over to subbed, and I was like, what's
Yeah.
happening?
All right.
Shell
we'll
shock
we'll have a whole
gross.
discussion about
Yeah.
subbed and dubbed at maybe on our second serving.
Mm,
Sponsored.
Mayhaps.
Well, we're gonna jump into our last anime that we have, which is The Devil is a Part Timer.
Do we even have time for that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought we were gonna end it.
Yeah, man.
Oof.
Yeah, I think
running
we
a
should
little
just end it
long.
now.
Devil's part timer. I mean,
Yeah, I mean it's a good anime. Don't get me wrong. It's like easy to get into. Reverse isekai.
Yeah, basically,
Yeah.
quick plot of it is that Demon Lord. It's not even an isekai or a reverse one because
it
no one
is.
summons him. So basically
he doesn't need to be summoned.
He just went to. A
Yeah,
different
he
world.
goes through like a teleporter. He's,
Yeah,
like,
he
fleeing-
basically
he's
goes
fleeing his
through-
home world.
fleeing his home world because he lost his kingdom. So him and his servant go to the human world. A few months later, the hero who was trying to kill him, turns out she came to the human world with him, and it's basically them living like daily lives. The devil is, as it says, a part timer. He's working at a
Yeah, he's
Mc-
trying
a
to
Ronald.
place
trying-
called a
yeah, he-
Rig.
McRonald's.
Ronald.
Mig, it's not
Mig-
even a McRonald's.
Yeah, it is.
McRonald's with a
McRonald's.
G.
McRonald's, that's what it is.
Well,
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's like in his mind, he's used to like magic power, but he has no magic, so he's just like, all right, well, I'm gonna climb the ranks of the world and
Take
like,
over this
Yeah,
world.
he's like, I have to take over this world, and to do so, I need money. So then he picks up a part-time job, and it's like the
Well, it's
slice
like-
of life
it's
and
not
the
even-
antics they get up to. On,
It's not
his
even
goal. It's not his goal like to get money. His goal is like to go into like ranked by like management. So he wants to become like manager of like McDonald's, and then like it's just like by power.
climb the ladder and
climb
just
the
keep
ladder,
going
yeah.
until
Somehow be
eventually
the,
he has like
president of the
So it's
world.
like
Yeah.
his goal. How he's like he's immortal. So it's like he'll soon do it like one day. You know.
yeah, it'll happen eventually.
Yeah.
I'm sad that there was never a second season for that.
Yeah, watching the last
be cool.
episode for it, there's 13 episodes in it. Watching the last one, it really kind of left it with like a weird taste because they're continuing it. They had just finished like
Oh,
a big
yeah. It
climax
could've
of it,
just
and then they
ended
were
there.
trying to go back to like their usual stuff,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it just didn't feel right.
yeah, it was a little wonky.
Mhm.
But I mean, all around, it's a good one in that like I feel like all slice of life
Mhm.
are like a good starting anime at
Mhm.
one point or another. This one's just better because you get that like the hint of fantasy of just
I
like
mean, there's still action in there
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
There's
Yeah, there's
comedy,
still-
It feels like a slice of life with action, comedy. You know,
Mhm.
Yeah.
it has a little bit of everything.
a little romance too.
Oh
But
yeah,
not really.
oh yeah,
there's,
between
like,
him and
romance.
the hero.
It's like, cause there was like that
yeah, there was that one
everybody
girl that
confuses,
works
like,
with the devil.
Amelia with like the devil.
Chiho is her name.
Chiho.
Chiho, she's the one that worked with the devil at
The big
at
busted.
McDonald's.
Oh yeah, Chiho.
Yeah.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
kind of a love interest there. It's a reverse isekai, so you got
Mhm.
that fantasy, a little bit of action.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just really like the relationship between him and his servant.
Oh,
Yeah.
Because like he's out
Master.
trying to like get money and like climb power and all that stuff. Meanwhile, his like servants like there trying to find a way home, like being useless but not being useless.
Like more like a housewife.
Yeah,
just
yeah,
at home
yeah.
cooking food.
try to cook, and then they have like their empty refrigerator with like coffee creamer in it or something
Yeah.
like that.
2 cucumbers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all around just like
It's
a lot of
Cowboy
fun.
Bebop.
Yeah, right. And yeah, highly recommend it. It's a good one.
It's good. Good.
I rewatched.
I
it a few
remember
times.
rewatching it, and I got a good few laughs out of it.
Yeah.
It was really interesting
It's
to
funny.
watch.
I think it's cool, like, because they start up like both of them are like really powerful. You know, it's like the demon
yeah.
lord and the hero, but now they're both like, one. You know, the
Back to
demon lord's
level 1.
working at McDonald's or
Mig Ronalds.
and then like the hero, like she's like some like office lady worker. I
She's
think.
a
Tele-
telecommunicator.
Yeah, there you go. I just remember her like on the phone. And yeah, so they're both like square one, but like at the start, like she still hates him and like wants to kill him and do all this stuff, but they're both like just normal
Yeah.
people. And
Yeah.
I think there's like a scene where he's like on his bike or something like that, and then she like attacks him
Mm-hmm.
or something.
That was like
and,
very first episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
where he's just like doing his own thing, and she's just like, "Is that the demon lord?"
Mm-hmm.
and tries to kill him. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's all in all just a really fun anime.
Mhm.
Really easy to just kind of sit back and watch. You don't really need to focus too much on the plot because it's just kind of in your face.
Yeah,
with it.
and I think what I really like about it is that like it tries to give you all of this plot because like they were previously fighting the hero and the demon lord,
Mhm.
but they can't anymore. Like they actually can't because they
Yeah.
have to just like assimilate with the real world.
Yeah, because
so
they
they
can't use their
and
magic.
they can't go back either way.
Yeah, yeah,
They
so-
can't go back.
So it's really cool that there's like it's like they're stuck between like, all right, are we just gonna like keep this going? Like, are we gonna keep trying to fight, or are we just gonna move on and like try to you know assimilate? Like we do our thing now, you know.
See, it's not even that because the hero is constantly trying to kill the
well,
devil.
that's the thing.
Even
But,
after.
but then like the demon lord he's not trying anymore.
Well, like
He's
she
just,
soon
like,
realizes that like the demon lord has good intentions. So
Yeah.
she just like she spends like every day just spying on him,
stalking.
just
We'll-
waiting,
we'll say
waiting
it the
to see
nice
like
way.
if his intentions are true or like if he's just gonna do something bad. So like she always gets invited by her friend to like, oh, let's go eat somewhere. But she's like, I can't today, you know. and
She's
she
always
comes
coming up with excuses as to why she can't
then
hang
she's
out.
Like she just goes spies on them. It's like, and there's like an episode where like the servant's like, it's like, or no, like what's it, the devil's all like, it's like, I'm leaving you behind. I can't wait for you, and like it makes it sound like bad intention, and they just go to the hot tubs or like
yeah,
Yeah.
go to the,
Yeah.
go to the showers.
Yeah.
Like where the demon lord or whatever.
yeah
Like they're in their house and she's spying on them through the window.
yeah
And she just hears him say like, "Oh, we're gonna be late to this thing. Like I
Yeah.
can't be late."
yeah
And like the demon lord just takes out without the servant. And
Yeah.
The servant's all like, "Oh wait, hold on."
Yeah.
Like next scene is just like them at the supermarket.
yeah.
the deal that's
It's
about to
like,
be
oh,
over.
It's like if we go into land again, it's like they get eggs or something
Yeah.
like that, right? And then Satan or whatever, it's like no, that's illegal. We can't do that or something like that.
Like that's against the rules. We can't cut
It's
it.
also it's really fun seeing them trying to like adapt to this new world. Like
Mm.
I think that's my favorite part is that they're just like going grocery shopping
Yeah.
and doing stuff,
Mhm.
but like the hero thinks that they're like up to like because she's like already she has an apartment, she's got
Mhm.
like she's
A
taking
well-paying
care, she's
job.
taking
Yeah,
care
she's
of herself,
set.
you know. She got onto it like really fast. Meanwhile, these guys are like in a rundown apartment with like no food, and they're
Mhm.
just like, "Oh, what do we do?" Like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's really great. I really like it.
Yeah.
And,
All right. So wrapping things up, Devil's Part Timer, A+.
Yeah.
Definitely watch.
A.
A plus. You
I'll
mean
say-
A plus.
I'll say A
S.
minus actually.
One Punch Man. That's a
S.
S hero rank. But yeah, no. So I guess we'll wrap that up. I think there's lots of anime, obviously, that
Oh,
we could have
tons.
covered that are like one might argue that they're better,
Oh yeah, like
intro animes. But it's just like looking back on it, these are just kind of like either we got into them or we see them as good like intro anime for people who don't watch them. And if you are a veteran anime watcher, like they're worth going back to. Like maybe you missed
Some of
them.
them.
Yeah,
Some
so
of
some of them.
Opinions.
Sort of. But yeah, no, most definitely. Let us know what y'all think. If we missed some, if like, what was your first anime that
Yeah.
y'all watched? You know, let us know, and maybe we'll talk about them later. If there's something you wanted us to go more in depth on, or maybe we'll even go into like movies or something like that. But definitely let us know. You can hit us up at Twitter at bowlofmen. That's our Twitter handle, and we have our email if you're not about the whole social media thing. bowlofmen@gmail.com. Shoot us an email there. But yeah, so that's the show. I hope y'all enjoyed, and yeah, shoot us a message. I really want to do that. The cartoon / anime.
Yeah.
Like, definitely, that's.
Let us know what you guys think. If you guys are wanting to listen to that, if you guys just want to kind of listen to something else, or if you just want to hear producer son just go down a list of anime he hasn't seen,
Yeah, right.
and us just like grilling him about it.
Why he hasn't seen those yet. But well, alrighty then. That's the show, and we'll catch y'all next time.
Yeah.
Later.